Next question comes from Dead Serenity 95. What is our first gaming memory?
Mine is so lame. Seeing Mario on the NES. Not playing it, but just seeing it like friends play.
Mine was watching my uncle play Shining Force 2 on the Sega Genesis and listening to the Cranberries' Zombie.
Zombie, zombie, zombie. Yeah.
Straight out of Compton.
Yeah, listening to that, it's honestly the first thing that I actually could think about when I said, what was my first memory? Shining Force 2, Sega Genesis, Cranberries' Zombie.
First one I could think of is probably Sonic 2. Is playing or watching my brother play through that and just being like, I'm gonna get that controller. I got next. That's about it.
All right. The next question comes from DosDeyDey. What are your thoughts on Amiibo?
I got a question for you. What does that mean?
DosDeyDey?
2 days? Dos
Two daddies?
DosDeyDey. Or does that mean something to anybody?
Or Bebe.
Anyway.
Or doing the day-day. Nay-nay. That's Nay-nay. My bad.
So what he asks, what are your thoughts on the Amiibo craze? Do you think Nintendo is handling this well?
I don't like toys. I do want the NES one just because I'm a huge I'm a huge Earthbound fan, so I do want the NES one, but I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to have it as a thing. If I can even get one, apparently they're impossible to get. I think Nintendo, there's obviously some shipping issues, and since they're exclusively like Japan-based, like they're having a shitload of problems getting it over here.
Yeah.
Well,
Are they doing?
Don't they have an American distribution center?
I'm sure they do, but
It's got to be in California.
The big problem is get that area, the West Coast, kind of having some shipping distribution issues.
Yeah.
Are they handling it well? Look, I remember back in the day when the PS2 came out and pretty much every console thereafter, like, we're having a shortage! We can't keep them off the shelves! So are they handling it well from a business standpoint? I think so. I would say from their making money standpoint, they're keeping them rare, which are hiking up everybody's buying them.
You know, that actually, I'm going to jump in and disagree with you. Normally for this kind of platform, we wouldn't interrupt each other and argue, but
They're arguing.
the whole scalping thing, none of that profit goes to Nintendo. They sell.
He's gonna ask that.
I know, and that's why it feels weird. So the next question he was asking, with scalping becoming more prevalent, are you worried you won't be able to get a special edition of something?
So yes, you're right. Scalping, they don't get any money for it because the person selling it that they already made, they already bought it. But
they'll get $5 of the $15 that you originally bought it for.
From Nintendo's standpoint, they sell it, so they've got their money from it. And now, when other people sell it, I feel like it actually makes them more valuable. So then people in the future will want to buy it more often. That also being said, when they in the future say, we have a special edition Amiibo that's coming out, you know more people are going to be like, I better buy that day one. Or else... Or else I'll have to pay like $50 for a stupid toy. Sorry, if you love Amiibos, that's awesome. But if you look at it from a certain standpoint, it is kind of silly. We gotta admit, right?
Huh?
just my opinion.
I'm here?
Yeah, just my opinion.
Excuse me. Amiibo craze is silly. Simply put. I think it's silly just because, yes, like Spencer, eloquently put it, they're just toys. And I don't like toys. I just don't. And I don't care if they have little memory cards that determine their little behaviors. Fuck off. I don't care. But at the same time, I can see why people would want them.
From a collector's
standpoint. I can see how people would want them. The scalping thing and how Nintendo's handling it, they're creating supply and demand at the end of the day. They don't fucking care if people scalp this shit. Okay! They're like, alright, well, it's like fucking Disney. They get rid of Little Mermaid and the special edition.
Right.
Digitally remastered for the 4th time. You know you're gonna get it. And then guess what? When Laserdisc comes back and everyone's flipping out, I'm over with the Laserdisc player. Everyone's gonna be like, "Whoa, did you get Little Mermaid on Laserdisc? Fuck yeah, I did, bitch! Because I love that movie." It's how it works. It's how it works. They're just fucking Their new system better cater to amiibos, otherwise they're fucked.
Using the Disney analogy, the difference with Disney is when they say they're re-releasing The Little Mermaid, they don't run out of supply. You can buy all of them, and you don't have to worry about tripping over somebody trying to get the next copy. The amiibos are going out of stock immediately. They become, as soon as they say, hey, we're bringing out the special edition, all right, it's out of stock, so now you have to go to eBay to go find it.
Well, what I'm getting at in that is if they re-release, say, a Little Mac amiibo that's limited edition, right? Then they re-release it maybe like 2 or 3 years later. Yeah, people are still going to get it, but is it in the highest demand? No, it's like Little Mermaid. How long has that movie been out for? 30 years.
No.
Right, roughly?
Sure.
Am I right? Maybe. Oh, no, I'm not that old. Fuck that. It's like 15. I don't know. Regardless, if it was the first time Little Mermaid came out the vault, it probably would have sold out. Or if it's like Blu-ray, I think it would have sold out. Hey, stop scheming over there.
I just think you're right. I think it's supply and demand, and I think maybe they could play it differently, where they could make more profit out of it. But from an actual supply and demand standpoint, they're kind of manipulating it in a way that I kind of enjoy.
It's probably too much work for them to be like, all right, how do we manipulate this to where we get more of a return? They're probably just like, fuck it, keep it the way it is. People love us.
Yeah.
And people...
I think Nintendo could make more profit by offering more supply. The demand would go down a little bit, but like you were talking about, the Disney re-release of all these different things, they're going to keep getting the demand for it because people are going to want to collect and want to collect.
And because they remake every game, like they make a Mario 20. Well, hey, Mario's coming out. I guess we're going to release that other Mario amiibo that nobody got. And then
he's got his hat slightly to the left,
right? Not to the right. Put it to the right.
Yeah.
Regardless, that's what a company does when they don't release good product. I'm kidding.
Which developer is the worst right now?
Nintendo.
You have a different response?
No.
No, my actual thing...
And by the way, a developer or publisher? Those do different things.
Well, yeah, they publish, but they do develop stuff in-house. So they count as both.
That's one of my biggest issues with them.
No, my answer isn't Nintendo, actually. I think they're really disconnected, but it's not them. I would still say it's EA. EA's doing better, but you know what? No, fuck that. Ubisoft.
Those are publishers.
They develop too.
So you have a specific, but they have like Ubisoft Montreal.
Okay, Ubisoft. Because I don't hate Visceral. I love Visceral for Dead Space. Who was it? I like DICE for Mirror's Edge. Publisher is still EA.
I've got it.
Ubisoft. Ubisoft. How many different Ubisofts?
Montreal. Bunch of other crap.
Right? That's a lot. No. Fuck it. Montreal. Did they do Watch Dogs as well?
I don't know. I don't know the specific ones that did those.
Company.
You'd have to look it up. But there's certain Ubisoft ones that are just tanky.
I will say I don't really like Treyarch.
Mm-hmm. Shots fired.
Yeah.
Shots fired.
I mean, but then again, I've never really connected with a Call of Duty past Modern Warfare.
I have a bit of a controversial answer for this. It's more of a personal gripe. So I don't know if everybody would agree, but there's a company called Level 5.
Yeah, I know.
That makes games. And I used to be a huge fan of them PS2 era. They made Dragon Quest VIII and Rogue
Persona 2.
Rogue Galaxy. No, they don't. They didn't. So they made those two games, which were fantastic. And recently, they've made games. On the PS3, they made a game that I was incredibly excited for called Ni no Kuni. And I actually played that game and was blown away by how disappointed I was with that game. The actual anime parts of it, like the cartoon style, was amazingly good. The game was beautiful.
What's that guy's name? The artist, the floating tower. You know what I'm talking about? I can't think of his name.
Yeah.
The visionary artist. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, I don't know anime, so I don't feel about that. But I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was a beautiful game. The characters were entertaining, everything. When you got to the actual gameplay of it, it was so disappointing. So disappointing. I was really let down. I couldn't finish it, so I stopped. And then I started playing. I played Fantasy Life, which I reviewed a little bit ago. And I really wanted to like the game, just couldn't couldn't like it. I've seen some of the other stuff they do. Inazuma 11, which I've tried to play. It's like a soccer game.
Yeah, based off the anime.
Which I can see why it's fun, but I couldn't get into it.
Mhm.
And they've done a couple other things that are on the cash or the shop on the 3DS. And just like they look really silly and strange. But I'm very disappointed with. So I will say that as my answer. They could just make the next Dragon Quest and it'll be better.
How do you feel about HD remakes?
They have a time and a place. And usually if you know the market and you know your product, they work great. I think the best example of an HD remake was probably
Nintendo's model.
Well, hey, take it up with him.
You mean Wind Waker?
No.
Wind Waker was good.
Nintendo Mario, Smash Bros. Mario, the original 8-bit, to Mario now. It's just HD remakes all the way.
GTA is the best example of an HD remake, especially with the PC release out. Everyone's going fucking ballistic, and this is a severe case. I was essentially a PC gamer first, but I have no problem saying they got the best end of the deal because, well, I don't remember the thing about. I didn't really read into the mod things. They talked about mods. I didn't read into that. But mods, if we're just thinking straight out, mods, right? Really pushing the spectrum of how good that game looks. Performance-wise, 60 frames.
When I hear remake, I think they've rebuilt the game from the ground up with new ideas and made changes. When I hear port, that's what I think an actual HD remake is a port with improved HD graphics.
Well,
usually they're just upscaled because they don't have the money to actually.
If we want to go, I mean, GTA, clearly they have the money.
Yeah.
You know, Rockstar.
No, absolutely. GTA did it amazing.
It's the best example of a remake because there were significant changes besides just
But I
graphics.
think the term HD remake in and of itself is kind of a fallacy. And I mean, there is a possible way to do an HD remake, but I think most of them are HD ports.
The only one that...
Final Fantasy X immediately comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
I say release as many of them as you want. Release all the HD ports. Please call it a port that you want. And be honest about it, and I don't really give a shit. I'm not going to buy them unless I haven't played the original.
Yeah.
If you want to do an HD remake, to me that is, if you take Final Fantasy VII
That's exactly
and you put it into the Final Fantasy 15 engine, so the quality of characters that Final Fantasy 15 shows us, you just take that engine and you take the Final Fantasy VII story and environments and upgrade them.
Right.
Slam
That
black
would be an HD remake of Final Fantasy VII. An HD remake of Final Fantasy VII is not porting it
No.
to the PS4 and saying it's now in widescreen.
Then to the PC, then to the PSP, then to the PS Vita.
Those are
then
all
to the PS2,
ports.
So a good example of an actual HD remake that we all know and love is the Resident Evil remake as opposed to Resident Evil 1. It's a clear, there's new things that are brought in there, new gameplay elements, way better graphics, way better pre-rendered graphics, and
Love me with pre-renders.
there's a lot more reason to play it than just, hey, it's a better looking version of the same game I played. Now it's a better looking version, and holy shit, Crimson Heads, what the fuck? Yeah, it's better. So there's clear reason.
I think this next question here can kind of be merged together. What games would you like to stream in the future? And what is the most fun game to play while drunk? I think those go hand in hand.
If we're streaming it, we're probably intoxicated.
Or something, yeah. Mortal Kombat was fun. Well, watching you guys was pretty fun, actually.
I do have to say, I did try and rent it from Gamefly because I was having fun with it. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go buy it. I realized that unless I have a community or group of friends to play with, like in-house, I'm not going to touch it.
Yeah. Well, I'm always here. Alone.
A good game to stream in the future. I really want to stream, and I've been trying to get them to get on board with it.
Oh, I don't mind doing it.
Life is Strange. I want to do Life is Strange. I think it would be hilarious.
I want to get crunk and stream it.
Right. The idea is we will be drunk doing it. There's no way I'm going to stream that game sober.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm going to stream any game sober unless it's League of Legends.
Here's a preview of that. Hey, look at those tits.
That's
That's me. That's me.
Okay.
I'll probably just you'll probably just see me go, what?
Yeah.
What?
This is so stupid.
What the most fun game I've had streaming in general is usually games where I can actually talk back to people. So I would say something like Bloodborne. I would say something that's a little more slower paced, I guess you can say. Battlefield doesn't do it for me because I'm too busy focused on this. I can't talk to people. Any fighting game doesn't work. It would have to be a slow paced game or a game like an indie game or something like that where everyone's discovering it as they go, like Valiant Hearts, which I still haven't beat. I would love to stream that. Best game to stream while you're drunk? Complete antithesis of what I just said. Fighting game. If it's not a fighting game, Bloodborne works in both cases. Or something that is like Geometry Wars, going fucking ballistic and just be like, like while you're like trash, you gotta take a shot. If you die, which means I will die.
We still want to do drinking games.
Yes.
On stream.
Yeah. If not, and maybe do them on stream and then chop them up for the YouTube audience, just in case you guys missed it. So.
All right. The next.
There's a lot of questions.
The next question asker was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I think two or three of them are pretty quick.
All right.
Okay. Lightning round.
All right. The next questions come from Special Agent Cooper.
We love you.
SHC.
So his question is, Satoru Iwata calls and asks, what game Nintendo needs to bring to the struggling Wii U in order to save it? What would you suggest?
I would suggest they go a mature route with Metroid. Make that. They already have experience making mature games. Usually they side, obviously, with the really, really kiddie stuff. But if they took Metroid and really ran with that concept and made it dark and gritty as hell.
Interesting.
But you're right. They have little...
Wii U.
You can see little things in there. You can see...
You
you can see little things in there and in Metroid Prime where it's like, that is dark as hell.
Yeah.
And if they really ran with that, this would be like mind-bogglingly good. So if they ran with that, I think that would get them more people to come in. I know that's not necessarily the audience they want, but if they want money, make that.
You know, my experience with Nintendo when I was growing up was Pokemon. Like, that was the biggest thing that Nintendo provided to me that made me want to play. There are way too many renditions of Pokemon right now for me to care about all 700 plus Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
But I would still like to experience a 3D world of Pokemon Red and Blue, Yellow. Well, that's about it.
Yeah.
Like those early ones when there was 151. I would say that would be a big move, and also then play around with it. But the other big thing that Nintendo brought to me when I was a kid was the Virtual Boy. Being able to plug in my Game Boy Color games into my Super Nintendo to then put it on the big screen. I think that there's the remote play aspect of the 3DS. If it can be sent to the TV and to the 3DS, like back and forth, whether I purchase a 3DS game or whether I purchase a Wii U game, I can play it on either system.
They introduced that with one game so far, so they are thinking about that.
Yeah.
It's like Donkey Kong versus Mario versus Donkey Kong, something like that.
If they can do that, I think the Virtual Boy concept, and that's why I brought it up, because it's similar. It's you buy a game on one console and you can play it on both. I think if they pursued that, I think it would be a huge market for them. It would open up their amount of games that they have to a huge library.
Pokemon. Probably Pokemon. Make it a MMO of Pokemon.
You know, I actually thought to myself, I have the perfect design strategy for that, if they ever went that way.
Mm-hmm.
And they would just release further expansions that would be the next level. So the first one, the base game, would be Red and Blue.
Mm-hmm.
And then just Gold would be the next one.
Dude, come on, guys. Hire us.
Oh, and then you'd have to choose which one you purchase and apply to your account, and you can't go back and apply the other version?
Right, so you have to work with other people to get those Pokemon.
There you go.
Wow. That's a money pit.
Hey, go.
Oh
my God! Quarters!
Scrooge McDuck. On your show, Special Agent Cooper states, on our show we talk a lot about PS4. but rarely do we mention the Vita or the PlayStation TV. Do either of us own any of those systems?
Can I jump in real quick?
Mhm.
For the record, we may speak. What? What are you laughing about?
There's something.
What did I do?
There's a video that I've seen where somebody says that, and then he says, "Can I tell you a Matt Damon story real briefly?" He says it just like that.
Man.
Or Matt Dillon. I think.
We may talk about, like, sometimes he'll talk about the Wii U, and we'll talk, all three of us will talk about PS4, and then we'll talk about PC. That does not imply that we are specifically associated with one console, okay? I still like Nintendo, just like I still like Microsoft. He still likes Nintendo. but
Don't even try.
but regardless, that's the most important thing that we try and do. Just because we talk about, PS4 or whatever. Yeah,
we both have PS4s. I specifically got the PS4 later on because they play PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
They play PlayStation games, so I didn't want to, if we had the experience or the opportunity to play games together, I didn't want to have an Xbox One to be like, sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's still a great console.
Yeah, I'm still looking towards getting one.
I do intend on getting an Xbox One. I have heard of some hardware issues that I'm waiting to see that they're resolved on before I jump in on the Xbox One. But I am actually very excited about the Kinect. I don't think that the PlayStation 4 does anything near as good as the Kinect.
Yeah, they all have their different plus and minus. Anyway,
So the Vita and the PlayStation TV, do you own one?
I own a Vita. I actually played Rogue Legacy exclusively on the Vita.
Do you own either?
I own a PlayStation and I play on my TV.
I did also play Persona 4 Golden on the Vita, which was a fantastic
It was
experience.
golden.
It was very good. I highly recommend it. The Vita, unfortunately, has a pretty lackluster library. Besides that, it is an awesome opportunity to play like all the classics on it. So I played a little bit Suikoden 2 on it, which is a legendary game that I just can't get into. But I mean, Final Fantasy IX is one of my favorite games of all time. So I love playing that. And then there's a lot of those kinds of games, but actual like new content that it has is abysmal. And anybody that says otherwise, I'm sorry, that's almost a fact. It's almost a fact.
Developing for the Vita is a graveyard.
Right. I mean, they had Borderlands 2, which, I mean, it seems like just play that on a console. Like, don't play those kinds of games on the Vita.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, it's the same argument with the 3DS. The difference being is that the 3DS just is smoother.
Well, the 3DS knows its place.
Yeah. The Vita is a very, very strong piece of hardware. It is very strong, but because of the strength of it, it is hard to develop for it.
Yeah.
So they end up just porting games that they're like, oh, we could put this on the Vita, and they go, okay. So it's like you have that, but why don't you just play it on the real system? So.
Yeah, and if they followed the Virtual Boy thing that I mentioned earlier, if you purchase it on the Vita, you can also play it on the PS4, and if you purchase it on the PS4, you can play it on the Vita.
They've done a little bit of that too.
If you can do
Cross-buy.
the cross-buy part of it, if you do that, then it's going to be more reasonable for people to want to buy the Vitas. Yeah, and for myself, the PlayStation TV, I owned one for 17 minutes. It was about 17 minutes from the Best Buy counter to the Target return department.
Interesting.
Yeah. The next question is R2-D2 or Chewbacca?
R2-D2.
Chewbacca.
Why would you want Chewbacca?
Dude.
He'll keep me warm at night.
R2-D2 probably has every single console built in his little tin belly or whatever.
He's probably got a sex toy built in too.
Hell yeah!
And then the last question from Special Agent Cooper is, why do you prefer Twitch over YouTube?
We don't. We don't prefer one over the other.
For live streaming.
For live streaming?
Yeah.
Who live streams on YouTube?
I tried it actually once. I attempted to do it and it was horrible. Maybe it's my setup and I can experiment more with it. I would love to do it because it makes it a lot easier for us if we would just go on YouTube, because obviously we put the videos on YouTube saying we're streaming. Mm-hmm. If that was just the stream, more people would be there.
Yeah, I watched something that you were testing and trying it out, and it looked odd.
It lags, and I don't know what happened.
YouTube just
I've got a strong
really is not built for that. Like, I feel like they really have not hit their stride when it comes to streaming.
See, I do see people doing the Google share where it's just them talking by themselves. and it's like against a green screen or something, and that seems to work all right. It's not something that we actively do. So I don't like a Google Hangout. I think it would be called.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe it's something we can introduce in the future, but as of now, we don't use that feature at all. So
until my PlayStation 4 or my future Xbox One or my 3DS or Vita or whatever system I get allows me to click one button and send it straight to a YouTube stream, I'm not going to consider it.
Ask any other YouTuber why they don't use gamer, why they don't use YouTube to stream. I'll tell you the same thing.
Just for me, it's ease of access. But I mean, if you are on a PC, you do have access to both of them, and it does come down to bandwidth and some of the other ins and outs
better
of it.
Customizing it, all those
Yeah.
kind of things. Plus, an added bonus, which is another part of the community.
True. JPP08 asks, what do you think is the best way to portray storytelling in games?
With a Coors Light,
doing it right.
feeling tight.
Spencer?
Well, that's an amazing question. We actually have a video of that I've been terrified to publish.
Yeah.
But I'll keep this one short and sweet. Storytelling in video games, the best one I've seen is probably BioShock Infinite. That was the best way to do it. I'm not saying it's the best story, but I'm saying it's the best way to portray it. Is in the game, force your character to look at something that's going on and then have a dialogue with it. Cutscenes, I think, are on the way out. As great as some of the cutscenes are in like The Last of Us and everything like that, I see them as being a thing of the past.
They're kind of in the way.
Right. Actually integrating into the gameplay. So I will say what BioShock Infinite did was amazing.
Justin, you don't have anything?
Or no.
Okay. All right, so this might be a little bit long-winded, but again, I'll try and keep it as short as possible. Gameplay works best when it's combined with story. When you feel the same motivations as a character, it tends to provide a better experience overall. BioShock Infinite does a good example. Another one I will use, which is one of my favorite games, is Uncharted 2. During the scripted events, granted, they are scripted to an extent. Like, oh, the helicopter showed up, that's scripted. How you handle it, not scripted. Right? You have to run, but hey, you could just be like, fuck, and die, or whatever the case is. It's a linear path that they want you to focus on, but the element is in the fact that this helicopter is shooting at you, and you have to run and get away from it. And it's a prolonged sequence of, oh shit, look at this, oh shit, fuck! You know, it just gets bigger, 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 and bigger. When you combine those elements, you create a good story. A good example is looking at Mega Man. Okay, Mega Man X. A lot of people say this, and it was actually Eagle Raptor that actually did this as well on Sequelitis, where he talked about the fact of why people like Mega Man X so much is because the fact that you have this new character, you have Zero, who's like, hey, you're not as strong as me, but one day you will be. And throughout the game, you're just getting stronger and working your way up to Zero, and then Zero gets beat up, and you have to take his place as the strongest guy. Avatar Strength is a very powerful narrative tool if done properly. Avatar Strength in Castlevania, in Metroid, very much in Metroid, because you may think like Metroid Prime doesn't really have too much of a story, but when you see that Avatar Strength, you're creating your own story. Another good example, finally last but not least, is games in which events are scripted, but they are very, very open. Any Fallout game, I'd never played the older Fallouts, so Fallout 3, New Vegas, Skyrim, and things like that, where you're just walking and then suddenly fucking a dragon lands. That's exclusive. That experience is exclusive to you. Happened in your game. That is your story, in addition to the story that's happening. That is very powerful. That's why those games get like 10s all the time, is because people are like, oh, you never guess what happened to me, bro. Rad Scorpion. Kid I knew, yeah. Fucking shot his tail off. You know, like, that's exclusive to you. People like that level of storytelling as well. So it has, but the thing is, it has to be wound into the gameplay to where your motivations are the same. A disconnect people had with Uncharted was, hey, freaking Drake's an everyday man, but man, is he a mass murderer, you know? But he's so chill and like chipper about it. Ha! Eat it, sucker! You know? You just shot that dude in the head. He has a family. Not anymore.
I think like how two games would portray, like how they portray the story and how you actually experience the story. I think that is a fine line to where if you're looking for a story in a game, there are a lot of games right now that have one. I've been reading a lot and I heard a lot about Type O not having a well fleshed out story, and that's why it got downscored. But if you actually talk to all of the campfire characters, all the characters that are standing around the campfires, and talk to each character, you do experience the full story, and you're not lost. So there is story games out there. You just have to be willing to go find it. Now the question asks, how is the best way to portray it to where it doesn't feel like you're chasing down stuff? I don't have a game that actually did that for me, that actually made me feel like I was moving through the game. It didn't have to stop and go look for a story. I think The Last of Us told a great story, but the way they told it in times did feel like I was chasing things down, like when I had to go find the tape recorders and listen to them to know why Joel, even though I can't ruin the end of it.
It's not at that, 5-10 year mark.
Yeah. But if you didn't get the tapes in a certain part, you don't know why Joel made a certain decision. But if you find the tapes, it's perfectly understandable.
Fits with Bioshock too. It's the same thing, same concept, in the sense that, hey, if you didn't read these audio tapes, you're kind of clueless.
Mm-hmm.
In some extent.
In the deeper sense.
Yeah, in the deeper sense. You're getting that shallow base story, but you're not getting it.
Yeah.
But
and the question is basically, how do you get the full in-depth story without feeling like you're having to chase it? And I still think that's trying to be achieved. I don't think there's a good example of it.
Yeah.